Corvette has gone through numerous generations and it is now considered the American supercar, but I've done plenty of reviews on C8 Corvettes. Today, I'm going to be doing a review on a C7, which I've never done before, and this was the last generation of the Corvette where it was front engine, rear wheel drive, true American sports car. And today, I'm going to be bringing you a review of it. Now, of course, the C7 Corvette was a lot longer up front because of that 6.2 liter V8 sitting under the hood, whereas now it's mid-engine and sitting behind the driver. But I think this is still an amazing looking car, and the exterior of this is actually finished in Sebring orange, which is a beautiful orange metallic paint, and you have plenty of black accents all over the car. Of course, since this is a Corvette, instead of getting the Chevy bow tie, you get the Corvette logo up here, and you have these vents for the heat extractor, which are really good looking, plus these headlights, which I think look great, really sharp on the outside of this car. Down here, you have your intake and everything like that, and overall, it's a good looking car. It is pretty short though, and so one of our cameramen being pretty tall, he could barely fit in this thing. All Corvette owners think their cars are unique, but there is something unique on every Corvette out there, and that's the fact that the hood is actually a clamshell. Instead of opening from the top of the hood right here, it actually opens from the front. No idea why, but I think it looks really cool. Under that clamshell hood is a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8, 455 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque, which is far less than its Z06 RZR1 counterpart, but this thing is still fast, doing 0 to 60 in around 3.7 seconds. This 6.2 liter V8 is mated to either a 7-speed manual transmission or an 8-speed automatic, both of which are incredibly fast shifting and great transmissions. But yes, what an interesting and unique look at this engine, and it seriously looks super well put together and clean. Now, when it comes to the side, I want to talk about these wheels real quick. Up front, you get these 19-inch all black wheels. This was an option on this car, wrapped in 245 Michelin Pilot Super Sport tires, and in the back you get 20-inch rims, and it's a staggered setup, 285s in the back, again with those Michelin Pilot Super Sport tires back there. Black Stingray badge right here with these vents. These ones don't look very functional. This one is functional, but the one over there on that side isn't. But overall, super sleek looking side profile over here, except the most awful visibility in a car that I have ever been in, even worse than the Camaro. The B-pillar right here, you can't even look behind you because this thing doesn't have blind spot monitoring, and so checking if someone's in your blind spot is almost like blindly switching a lane because it's not like you're going to be able to see them anyways. In the back, you get these beautiful quad exhaust tips back here, and that 6.2 liter V8 is like a song. Here's what it sounds like. Not to mention the fact you also have this massive black wing right here, black Corvette logo and badge back here, and I think the rear end of this just looks super aggressive with these sharp designed taillights and this rear valence down here. Now, when it comes to the trunk space, of course, you still get some, but it's not much. The interior space in this car is awful. You have 15 cubic feet of cargo space in the back, but you do get a beautiful carpet back here with the Corvette logo on it, plus some tie-down points, 12-volt sockets, little hooks and everything like that. It's still decently practical, just not great storage space at all. Let's talk about the interior of the C7 Corvette. I actually like it, but it's not as good as the new C8. You do have a decently sized touchscreen right here, which is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capable. But the really cool thing about it is because this interior has no storage space, you actually have space behind the screen. If you press the button that says screen on it, there is storage space behind that screen, and you have a USB Type A. When it comes to the materials on this interior, this one is spec'd with the leather dashboard, which is nice and soft. The steering wheel feels great, but I do like the new weird steering wheel of the C8 a lot with the Alcantara. Great leather on the door, and the seats are really nice. These GT bucket seats are really cool. Like I said, storage space in here is pretty lackluster. The center console is not great. 2 USB Type A's, a 12-volt socket and an auxiliary port, and you even have a decently sized glove box, but all you're going to get out of that is going to be your owner's manual. This does have dual zone climate control, but it's not like other cars. Your passenger has their controls on their side vent over there, and over here the driver has their controls near the infotainment system. And speaking of the infotainment system, it can be controlled by a knob or through a touchscreen, and the touchscreen is not very great, which is weird because Car and Driver gave this interior a pretty good rating. Now, Gauge cluster, of course, your speedometer, your gas, and your engine temperature are going to be analog, but you do have a part of the screen where you do have a digital tach and a digital speedometer, and it's a pretty high quality screen and shows everything that you would like. Drive modes in here, you get sport, track, wet, weather, and you get an eco mode, surprisingly, because people care about getting good gas mileage in their Corvettes. But overall, the interior of this car is pretty cool. And one more thing, just like the C8 Corvette, these doors are electronically opening with a button on the door that you press right here to open it. And of course, there is a safety latch that you can press to open it manually too. All right, so driving the C7 Corvette, I've driven the C8 numerous times, and that car is just, honestly, having that mid-engine and the transmission and the way the car is set up, because the weight distribution of that car is so good. I'm really interested in to see how this goes. When I drove this, it handled exceptionally well. And I didn't have any problems. And with these tires and the way it handles, it takes corners very well. Even though this is super front heavy, which leads to things like understeer, but I haven't had any issues. Accelerating through bends isn't a problem at all. The front feels super planted, a lot more planted than I would have thought it would have felt, which is nice. And these tires up front aren't super thick, and so I don't know how to feel about this car, because it drives so much better than I thought, and it was listed in the top 10 cars of 2019, which is super surprising. And that's the same year the next generation of this car was announced. And that car, the C8, is just another type of breed, but people still consider this the American supercar with how well it performed. And for only $60,000 now, it's really not that bad of a deal. You get tons of power and tons of performance out of this car for $60,000, which is the new price of something like a Mustang GT. Let's feel this transmission out. I wish the transmission was a little jumpier. Here's how I feel about this. So the exhaust is very dramatic feeling, which is good. I like a dramatic experience when I'm driving a car. It doesn't feel pumped into the cabin or anything like that. But what I do notice is there's not a lot of drama when it comes to the acceleration of the car. I'm not really being thrown back into my seat, which is surprising, because this is a pretty torquey V8. It makes more torque than horsepower, which is very common with the 6.2 liter from Chevy. Very torquey engines, but I feel like the Camaro does a lot better job of really throwing me back into my seat. This one doesn't do that. It's a lot more subdued, but it is still very, very, very quick. Like I said, 3.7 seconds to 60 is an incredible time for a car like this. And a car like this, if you were to go out and buy one, this base Corvette only weighs 3,300 pounds, which is far lighter than the Camaro or the Mustang or anything along the lines of any of the pony cars or muscle cars in America today. This is lighter. And the C8 Corvette is also, of course, light, but I was very surprised to see 3,300 pounds as its weight statistic. It just seemed really light to me. One thing I do hate about this car is the visibility. It is absolutely awful. I don't think anyone should be getting this without blind spot indicators, because like I said before, that B pillar blocks your direct view of any of the traffic on your left side. If I look back, I'm literally looking at a piece of felt for the roof. Though the blind spot on the passenger side isn't so bad, because you do get that little window back there that you can kind of see out of. Same thing with the rear. I cannot really see out of the back of it, which sucks. I wish the visibility was better, but this is definitely the worst visibility I've ever had out of a car in the 500 videos I've made. This is the worst visibility I've ever had of a car. I want to test out this acceleration a little more in sport mode right now. Yeah, the responsiveness of that transmission is just not amazing, but it is super quick. Wow, that was 90 in third. 90 miles an hour in third gear. Good transmission. 8-speed automatic, which is nice. Chevy stopped using this transmission and opted for their 10L80, which is a very close replication of the 10R80, because Ford and Chevy worked on that transmission together. But this 8-speed's pretty nice as well. overall, it handles super, super well. It's really fast for being the type of car that it is. And I'm very surprised with how well this car is. The interior, not very big, but on the other hand, I feel like anyone could daily drive this car. This is not a weekend car. It's very capable of being daily driven by anyone, and it is super easy to get in and drive. Super low to the ground, but you know what? I don't think that's going to be a big problem for many people, as long as they can get over the visibility issue. And that is a 2019 C7 1LT Corvette. It's a great car. It drives fantastically, super fast, and that powertrain is awesome, whether you get the manual or the automatic. If you guys like the video, make sure you hit that like button down below, and if you want to see more from us, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.